Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Stay a While and Listen podcast. I almost forgot the name of the podcast there, even though I literally just typed it into the
Yeah,
save bar, which
I
is
mean, it's not
concerning.
the greatest of names.
In fact,
Let's be honest.
it pains me to say, but I almost actually said, "Welcome to this week's episode of the Co-optional podcast." And I was like, "No, that's not it. That's not correct."
We can dream. We can dream.
Dream.
Not just dream, but like it hasn't even been that for a long time as well.
Indeed.
Nostalgia.
But anyway, I believe you owe me $10 because I remember you saying last time that, oh, if this co-optional podcast, if we can do it and it's not like a whole year later, then I'll give you $10. And it's not a whole year later, so yeah, you give me $10 next time.
I'm pretty sure I said within the year, and that was last year. Because it's now like February.
You didn't say within the year.
I'm pretty sure I said that.
No, you didn't.
Look,
Kill
I
yourself.
wouldn't have made a dumb bet with you if I wasn't going to jinx it in some way in my favor.
No.
I'm just not that kind of person.
You freaking constantly tried to put it off every time. You're like, oh no, I'm playing World of Warcraft. But no, not this time.
I'm not sure I could have got away with that. I don't know if I
want
could
my
have got away with
$10.
that for a whole year.
It's either, look, you can give me $10 or you can buy me a milkshake. Your choice. But you gotta do one of them.
Yeah,
Or you can
I'm
buy
sure
me pancakes. Pancakes are also good.
See, now we're going above the $10 threshold if we're talking.
Pancakes aren't necessarily above $10. I'm sure you can get cheap
Good ones are. Oh, you want just cheap, shitty pancakes? Sure, I can arrange that.
No, just,
I'm gonna get you the bad.
You're not
I'm gonna
making
get you,
me pancakes.
I'm gonna get you the Bad Rats 2 Rats Revenge of pancakes.
Oh, Lord.
That'll be my mission.
This is gonna be like Woolworths Select brand.
No, it's gonna be
Black
shake
and
and
gold
bake.
pancakes.
It's gonna be shake and bake from the 1980s. I hope you're ready.
From the 1980s.
Yeah.
You're literally gonna get me something that was made in the 80s. It's gonna be all old and spoiled, and you're gonna make that.
I don't believe shake and bake can ever be spoiled. I don't think that's a thing.
This is upsetting. Can I just take the $10?
Probably.
Whatever.
You can have $10.
I feel like this podcast is not about games at the moment.
No, but when is it ever?
Welcome to the Co-optional podcast where we sometimes talk about games.
Look, I know you want to believe.
We're gonna get wrecked by copyright.
I don't think they copyrighted it. I don't think you can copyright something that is by addition fair use. I also think the irony of someone who's very anti-copyright and anti-censorship would try and sue you for copyright.
Okay. So, what have you been
Anyway.
up to this week? Let me answer it for
This
you,
week,
because I know
specifically?
exactly what you've been doing this week. And I know exactly what
Yeah.
I've been doing this week, and that is just playing World of Warcraft. It's a
Pretty
good
much.
game, I heard.
Well, look, it's fair enough because you know, and I both know that it's got a rich environment and rich story behind it, and if you just level up these days, you never see it. So we decided to take a trip back to the vanilla content, as it were, and back to the Outland content and a little bit of Wrath content as well.
We
And,
took
I
a
found it
stroll
enjoyable.
through the caverns of time.
Yeah, well, that's Cataclysm, but shut up.
Yeah, but you know, I was just using it metaphorically, not literally, even though
Okay,
we
yeah.
did do that literally.
That's a good point, actually. Yeah. And
yeah.
I got to see the great joy that it was before the random dungeon finder teleported you to the actual instance, and you had to run there yourself. And if you didn't have a mage, God help you, I think.
Pretty much.
And
So yeah.
that's a mage, you know, as of 5 point whatever, whenever the hell they stopped making portals cost money. Because that's also extremely helpful to not have to worry about. So yeah, I heartily recommend anyone who's got level 90 or level 100 and they haven't done Molten Core or the like, just do it. It's really fun.
Fight the Lich King if you want. Fight Kael'thas, or however you say his name.
Yeah, Kelth's art as well, and Naxxramas. So you can do all of that by yourself. No guild required, no LFR, just plain old fun.
Yeah,
Plain old
it's
lonely
great.
fun. The way that RPGs should be played.
Now you're just making it sad.
Sorry.
Oh,
But yeah,
but
yeah.
the one thing that you shouldn't do is Ulduar. That dungeon, just don't do it. Just this is the worst dungeon that has ever been created, and it makes me sad.
But if you want a challenge, do Ulduar.
Ugh.
And specifically do it on a class that cannot tank properly. Then it's a real challenge.
Suppose. I mean, you could do Ulduar if you're a nerd, but I hate that dungeon. I hate Yogg Saron.
See, the thing is, thinking about it, he wasn't even the hardest part. The hardest part was pulling a lever in a dungeon without getting interrupted.
Yeah.
I find that pretty hilarious.
Okay, that part was annoying. What was his name? Thor?
Thorin.
Thorin.
Yeah, so if you hadn't guessed, doing solo content where you're meant to split a party into two, it's very difficult, even when you've got two people, because you don't figure out what to do for a while until one of you's dead, and then you have no way of resurrecting him.
Pretty much.
It was a lonely, painful escapade for me, but it worked out, and it felt like more of an achievement because of it. It felt epic. And that's something you can't normally say. Yeah, but these people play Hearthstone. Anyone who might be listening who plays Hearthstone, they understand that the most epic moments are purely luck based.
Pretty much.
And then they're kind to themselves and they call it skill afterwards.
Mhm.
That's right.
So yeah,
Especially
that's basically a summary of our week. Other than the somewhat smaller binge I've been going on for Guild Wars 2 with the announcement of Heart of Thorns, the expansion pack. And if you're not hyped for that, then you should be. Because damn, I'm excited for this. They haven't given a release date yet, but I have all the want for Heart of Thorns. What about you, Tom?
I mean, I know I don't play Guild Wars as much as you, but it does seem like an expansion is sorely needed for the game, so I'm glad that we're having it.
Yeah, I mean, the game's been released for like almost 3 years now. I mean, I think around August this year will be the 3rd year of Guild Wars 2. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
And yeah, it is well overdue a nice expansion pack. And they have said that this expansion pack will be focusing a lot on endgame content, which is exactly what this game needs, so I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, for sure. And I think it's just going to be like a good way of... I don't want to say min-maxing your character, because that's not what Guild Wars is about in the slightest, but it does allow for the players who felt that they were doing not enough of one thing or too much of another thing to actually like fully realize what they expect out of a game. So I'm glad about that. And that's something that endgame content really drives as well. No matter what the game is. Yeah, you don't have a healer, but you don't really need a full-on healing class in that game, so that's fine. And it seems a bit more like you can have a tank, a support class kind of thing, a heavy damage dealer, but a bit of a glass cannon. All the things that people really like to see in RPGs, even though Guild Wars 2 tried to drive it out a little bit. I think it'll definitely benefit from having it more back in. And I mean, let's face it, even in non-dungeon content, you still had people being more tanks and people being more glass cannon-y. It was just the way that the classes worked. There's no getting around it.
Yeah. One thing I definitely like this expansion to go into is make it so that the game isn't so reliant on just everyone having Berserker as the correct option. And I say correct with my fingers doing that quotation mark thing.
Parentheses is what you...
Yeah. Because for PvE, like for dungeons especially, it's... Well, just for all PvE, it's just not worth not going full Berserker. If you want to do things as efficiently as possible, I mean, by all means, you can do whatever the hell you want. It's an MMO. I don't think anyone really gives a shit what you do, but to make things the only sort of viable build is a berserker build for doing things for efficiency's sake, which annoys me. And I kind of want, like, I've been playing a lot of WoW recently, as I said, and I kind of miss the old Holy Trinity system and the whole like having that sort of specialization. That was really cool. And I don't necessarily want that to happen to Guild Wars 2, but I'd like them just to make so that not everyone is berserker. If that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Like the idea that literally everyone in the game needs the same kind of armor is what makes the homogeneity to be a real thing. And as with any RPG, and WoW itself suffers for this as well, because depending on what class you are, you just need certain stats over others, and there's no getting around it. And it means everyone looks the same at high level with high level gear. And unless you do transmogs, which you can do in Guild Wars, but that's not really the point. Yeah, it makes the game look very, very boring to the casual observer.
Yeah, I agree completely. So anyway, I think what we're gonna do now, or what I'm gonna do now, is I'm gonna go over all the features that we know of so far for Heart of Thorns. Then maybe we'll do some speculation for the different specializations that have been announced. So I'll start off with like the basic stuff. The Heart of Meguma is the new area that's going to be opened up to us. It's good. We're going to have like new open world jungle maps, and they're going to have 3 biomes. Like each jungle map will have like a core, which is the floor of the jungle, and then there'll be the roots of the jungle that go deep beneath it, and then the canopy, which is like way above it. And I think that's going to be super, super cool. With something that I'll talk about, go into a bit more detail later, is the mastery system. And in that mastery system, you learn something called hang gliding. Now, I think that hang gliding is going to apply a lot to this sort of, 3-story biome with the core, the roots, and the canopy. So there'll be a lot more sort of depth to a map, which is something that we haven't really seen. Like, if you roam through Guild Wars now, it's sort of all the areas
2D.
are kind of 2D.
Yeah.
But this gives the new areas will have a sort of 3D layout now, and gliding through that sounds like it's going to be amazing.
Yeah, for sure.
So yeah, it's going to come with new, like, obviously you're going to have like new hearts over here, I guess, new vents, and there's going to be a new story, like continuing on the story. There's going to be like, more content in general. So yeah, what were you going to say, sorry?
No, I was just gonna say about the whole like adding verticality to the game. I think this is as far as they're ever going to go towards giving people the ability to fly in any capacity. Because I think they're concerned about what happened to WoW, which is where giving people the ability to fly basically means they start skipping content, and then they start complaining there isn't enough content, even though arguably it's their fault for running around and like not engaging any of the mobs as you're meant to normally.
Yeah, exactly. One of the developers actually stated this. I can't remember which one it was, but one of them said it. I think it was at PAX that that he said, or she said. I really can't remember. But yeah. The reason why they don't want to add flying, and also the reason why they don't want to just release a massive, like, why they don't just want to suddenly release Cantha in one huge expansion, or suddenly release, the rest of Tyria, or suddenly release Elona, or some other new continent that we don't know of, is because you're just going to have, like, one place in the world is going to suffer more because of that, because everyone's going to shift to this new place, and everyone will forget about the old place. Then you'll have all this wealth of content, which will just be barren. And, they don't want that to happen, which is fair enough. It makes perfect sense.
Guild Wars 2 already has that problem a little bit in the fact that you can go to any capital city and have the same services you would in Lion's Arch. So people don't necessarily want to hang out in Lion's Arch. And I don't know, to me it just feels a bit emptier than I remember it as, like when it wasn't destroyed. And same with Divinity's Reach, it's just such a gigantic area, and there's barely anyone around apart from NPCs.
I kind of have to disagree with that, because I don't know, I was just in Divinity's Reach today, and the place was absolutely packed, at least where the trading posts were. and where all the crafting benches were. Those were quite packed, especially with the new sort of well, the mega server has nothing to do with the cities because cities are all server based, but I'm talking about the outside world is like a lot more populated now because of the mega server system, and I still think that the cities are quite populated. I mean, even when I went to what is the Char place, the Black Citadel, I went there the other day, and it was also there were like quite a lot of people there. And Ruben was telling me that even the Grove, the bloody Grove, had people in it.
All right, fair enough.
Like, who goes to the Grove?
True, it is annoying to get around, although it's quick but inconvenient if you're not aware of the elevator system. All right, fair enough.
It's also laggy. Like, Jesus. Like, it lags on my computer. That takes some special effort to lag on my computer. I
don't know, maybe it's just because you've got like so many different chats. You're used to seeing like a constant flow of chats, whereas in WoW, like as soon as you enter a city, you join the local chat for there, and it just blows up, and you feel like you've entered an area with lots of people. I don't know. Regardless, yeah, you don't want people to ignore old content necessarily. Indeed.
Yeah.
What Mushfik and I did in WoW is it's something that it's not unheard of, obviously, because people talk about soloing these instances all the time, but at the same time, it's not common by any stretch of the imagination. And indeed, the bosses are still there. They just sit there idling, idly waiting for raiders to come and kill them.
Anyway, let's go on to the next thing. The next big thing is the mastery system, which is like the way they describe it is an account-based PvE progression system available to all level 80 characters. And essentially, well, at the moment we don't know too much about it. Like, it's a bit vague, but I'll go over what they've listed. So just so that we're clear, because I don't really want to make a mistake here in case I explain something incorrectly. But basically, players have to complete content and overcome challenges in this new area. As far as I know, it has to be in this new area. So I'm not sure how they're going to do this. Like, are they going to deny this mastery system to people who are just the people who don't have the expansion pack? Will they just not be able to progress their characters unless they have this mastery system? Are you only going to be able to unlock these things if you're in the Maguma zone, this new area? I mean, it would make sense, but at the same time, I don't know.
Yeah, it's how it works in any MMO. It's how it works in any expansion-based MMO, though. So
yeah, it wouldn't surprise me. It would make sense, but I'm curious as to see how they would do it, because with the new specialization system coming in. Actually, I'm going to leave this bit for when we get to the specialization system. I'll focus on this first.
Yeah.
So mastery points can be earned prior to level 80, but they can only be spent once you're level 80. And they describe it as like ways of attaining is to complete elements of the story, and you're going to love this part, finding hard to find and hard to reach locations, i.e. jumping puzzles.
Jumping puzzles. Hey.
The bane of Axe Tom.
Hey, look, other people find them a pain. There's no denying that shit.
There's no denying that they are a pain, but I enjoy them. So some of them are pretty fun, but I do agree that they are just a pain sometimes. So defeating challenges and group challenges, exploring the entire maps, and completing challenging achievements all give you mastery points. Now, mastery points can be spent to unlock masteries in different categories that are then available to all characters on the account. So some examples of this are exploration, which is learning to hang glide through the air instead of just flat out falling.
Yeah.
Lore, which allows you to learn the languages of the civilizations of this new jungle. So that means that's implying that there's going to be new civilizations. So you've got your wish here, Tom. Now it's no longer just the Quaggan and the Hecate and the Skrit. Now we have new civilizations to look forward to, and we have to learn their histories, their secrets, and gain access to some of their hidden locations.
Uh-huh.
Mastery points can also be spent on combat. So you learn new abilities to survive against and defeat and new enemies of the jungle. For example, a Mordrum. I'm sure you've fought a Mordrum in Guild Wars 2. They're like basically these behemoth things that have like bark and they're like heavily armored, and you can, in order to fight them, you can fight them better. You can learn how to just rip their bark off, like to lower their armor. You use mastery system for that. So it's sort of like that kind of reminds me of in Fallout. When you use the VAX, it's called VAX? What is it? I can't remember.
VATS.
The VAT system where like
system.
Yeah, you find like their weakness and you attack them there. So it seems kind of like that, like except it's going to be for specific enemies. Like the Mordrum is heavily armored, so how do you make him weaker? You strip off his armor, so you can learn to do that with mastery points. That's pretty cool. And the last one that they've said is you can use it on collections. So collections send players on journeys across the world, gathering components for precursors for existing as well as brand new legendary weapons. There will be one collection for each precursor. So essentially, this has had a pretty big impact on the game, because if you go into the Black Lion trading post now, you'll see that a lot of the precursors have dropped in price a lot. John the other day saw a dude in Citadel of Flame dungeon who had 2 bolts. Bolt, I'm not sure if you know what bolt is, but it's a legendary sword that has like lightning all over it, and he had 2 of them. So yeah,
Is it a bit absurd? Yeah.
Apparently he just bought them like that day, because he just had the gold. Like the price drop on them has been like 50%. Like he said the precursors for them were like 500 gold each, instead of like usually they're like over 1,000 gold each. So it's crazy. Because now that collections are coming in, you can craft your precursors with the collections. So yeah, legendaries will be a lot more attainable, especially for players like me, because I've been playing for a long time, and I have like all of the I have enough materials to actually make a legendary. I just don't have a precursor, and I just don't have 1,000 gold to throw at a precursor. But I have like all the materials, so I can pretty much guarantee a legendary once this expansion rolls out.
Yeah, first of all, it's interesting that like the price of them can drop just off the back of speculation, according to the announcement by ArenaNet. It is like quite a, I don't know, drastic thing to do to lower prices by that much, but fair enough, I suppose. And the other thing is, like, I assume that with the masteries, you acquire them in the exact same way, and then it's just a matter of what you spend them on, right?
Yeah.
So the way I see it is that you'd have to be very devoted, or just have nothing else to spend them on things like lore or defeating enemies in a specific way. Like, you would first of all spend them on legendary, because then you get the cool cosmetic effect that you've been denied for the 3 or so years you've been playing so far. And then the second thing you buy is a hang glider. Maybe you buy the hang glider first because you don't care about legendary. And I think every player is going to be doing that.
Honestly, it depends on how much the collections will cost, but so far I feel like I'm going to be investing in the first 3 before I start going towards legendary. I'm honestly not too fussed about getting a legendary. I've spent a lot of time on my characters the way they are now, and I really like their current weapons. Although they're like exotic, their armor and weapons are only exotic level, I like the way they look. Like, I went through the wiki and had a look at all the different arms and stuff, and I was like, yeah, I like this stuff, this will do. But now that I have this option of getting a legendary in a lot easier way, I will go for it. But I'm really interested in like the lore and the new combat stuff, and especially the hang gliding. So I'm going to be having a look at that first before going fully devoted for a legendary weapon. But I really like this. I really like it that it's now getting a legendary is basically a part of your character's progression rather than just like some grind after you've finished the game.
Yeah.
Now you get points that you've earned, you spend that towards a legendary weapon. I mean, that's great. That's really good end game content.
Yeah, I think so for sure. I think that like you can always make the claim that grinding gold is a part of character progression, especially end game for to max level and stuff. But it's also not a fun part of grinding. And then you feel cheated by the auction house whoremongers who, find a really good vein of something, or they, I don't know, happen to get lucky that one thing they have tons of happens to be rare for that week, so they get, start making a killing on that. And it also makes people angry about exploits and stuff. And well, ArenaNet's stance on exploits has been harsh at best, so I think this will like lessen it in a better way than just banning people outright for trying to exploit the gold system that they have. Like Guild Wars 2 economy is definitely like a lot more functional than a lot of MMOs, but the fact that it's such a huge part of the game, I think detracts from the overall RPG aesthetic in a lot of ways. Like you don't want it to be a game about economics, really. You want it to be a fantasy RPG.
I kind of like that it's a game about economics, though. Honestly, the original Guild Wars 1 was like that, and
Yeah, that's
going
fair
into
enough.
WoW and looking how its economy works, it just doesn't make sense to me. Because as a Guild Wars player, originally, I'm just like, I always thought the economy and the market was a huge thing about MMOs, but gold just seems to be this thing in WoW that you just get heaps and heaps and heaps of it just thrown at you. It doesn't seem like, that big of a deal.
Yeah, I don't know. To me, it's just sort of preferable. If I wanted to play a game that was about trading, I'd play Eve. If I want to
I
play a
suppose.
fantasy RPG where you get levels and do cool things with it, then you play Guild Wars 2 or WoW.
Yeah, makes sense. Anyway, I'm just reading here that apparently the mastery system will be available all over the world, not just in Heart of Maguma. So you can earn mastery points for anywhere, which is pretty
Okay.
cool. So that I think that would include the combat and the lore, and obviously the
Yeah.
collections. But I'm pretty sure that the exploration in terms of the hang gliding you'll only be able to do that in Heart of Maguma, as far as I know. I'm pretty sure someone confirmed it before on a stream.
Hmm.
Because
As
the other places just don't have the verticality, honestly, to do hang gliding.
apart from World v Worlds, it'd be interesting if that was a thing. Can you imagine?
Yeah, that would be sick, actually.
Yeah, I bet it
I
won't be the
mean,
case, but it would add so much much of a skill cap to World v World and PvP.
that
Like
would be
epic
awesome,
escapes
actually.
just become even more epic. I love it.
All right, so let's go into the next part. The new profession, the Revenant. So the Revenant is a new heavy armor profession that channels and controls the power of the mists. It channels the power of great legends from Guild Wars past and uses those to power the skills it has available. When channeling a legend, the player's heal, utility, and elite skills change based on the legend. Several legends will be available, including King Jealous Ironhammer and Malix the Unyielding. These were all pretty famous guys back in Guild Wars 1, so that's sweet.
Yeah, it's a good nod to Guild Wars 1 players for sure.
Yeah. So essentially, that's all they've revealed about the Revenant so far. The Revenant's probably the most vague thing that they've told us about. All we basically know is that what I told you is basically all we know about the Revenant. We don't even know what weapons he uses. I mean, I'm sure I think I've seen him using a spear in the trailer, and that's it. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's what we
I
know
don't
about the Revenant.
I don't want to throw shade on ArenaNet, but I'm calling it now. This is going to be the Guild Wars 2 Death Knight equivalent. That's what I reckon.
Yeah,
Going to
that
be really tanky and deal absurd amounts of damage, and people will complain, and they'll nerf it, but not enough to like bring it back to, how other classes are.
yeah, pretty much. It looks that way to me as well. It looks kind of like it reminds me of the Ritualist from Guild Wars 1. I feel like Ritualist will be like a specialization for Revenant.
Sure. So it's just
Um,
like a tanky. I don't want to say caster
well,
because
the
everyone's a
Ritualist
caster, but
Ritualist in Guild Wars 1 was basically, it's really hard to explain because there hasn't really been anything like in any other games. It was a very popular class, but basically a Ritualist summoned spirits and used the power of spirits to fight enemies. They were a light caster class that just stood at the back.
hmm. Yeah, this seems more like a upfront personal class, although.
Yeah, but I feel like one of the specializations for it could be something like the Ritualist, where you summon spirits to aid you in a fight.
Yeah.
It could be. I don't know. Anyway, so now let's go into the specializations. This is the part that I've been most excited about. I know you're going to be most
Hmm.
excited for the World vs. World part.
Don't leave it.
Okay. Now, Colin Johansson has, I quote, said, almost a secondary profession, if you will, is what the specializations will be. Now, before I go talk about these specializations, I'm really, really curious as to what the trade-off is going to be. Because obviously people who don't get the expansion aren't going to have access to the specializations. So how does a druid differ from a ranger? What's going to happen? Like, if you specialize into druid, are you going to lose one of your trait lines? And is that trait line going to be replaced with another one that's called a druid? Is that how they're going to balance it out? So that either ranger or druid is viable, but it depends on which one you want to do. So it's not, a druid isn't necessarily a straight upgrade over the ranger, is what I'm saying. I'm hoping that's the case.
Yeah, it's gonna have to be that. What I'm thinking is that they'll add things to the ranger class so that it sort of becomes like a way in which you branch off into one of two means. So say, I don't know, if you stay as a ranger, you get additional bow damage or some useless crap like that, and as a druid, you get more tank ability. That's what I'm thinking. It would be something like that.
Okay, so let's read
Uh,
out what they've said. Oh,
Actually,
sorry,
no, it would depend
continue.
on what weapon. I'm just thinking it would depend on what weapon you're wielding. I have to keep reminding myself that Guild Wars 2 is about every specialization, every profession rather, being able to do a bunch of different things. So I think that maybe Druid would, I don't know, maybe transform into animals, whereas Ranger you get to keep the animal. Like that would be a trade-off, right?
Yeah, that seems decent.
I think it might be something like that.
Because what one of the developers said in a stream that I was listening to as well was that what they're going to be focusing on with these specializations. Because as you said before, originally what Guild Wars is about is that every class can do everything, and what they want is to buff these specializations will buff the rangers in doing something that they couldn't do before. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
That's what their goal is. That's what they've said. So, I mean, let's look at. So, it's been confirmed that the ranger will be able to equip a staff in order to become a druid. So, what did rangers do before? Before they had martial weapons. They had they had a huge variety of weapons. They had the great sword, the long bow, the short bow. They could use daggers. Like they could use warhorn. They could use like pretty much everything. I'm pretty sure. And
Yeah.
the only thing they couldn't do is stand at the back and be like a caster. They could definitely be pretty tanky and be like upfront fighters. They could be like glass cannon thieves sort of style gameplay. They could be like
Yeah.
ranged damage dealers with
Thanks.
the bow. They could be pet masters. The only thing they haven't been able to do is like be a ranged magic class. Like a ranged supporty magic class. And I think that's what the druid will be. I think they'll be sort of standing at the back using magic, helping their allies, buffing them, and enchanting, that sort of thing. I think that's what
Yeah,
it's going to be.
that seems very viable indeed. Yeah.
Because I feel because the ranger already has so many spells that actually transform him. So I don't know if becoming druid will mean that they get more transformations because they already have like 4 elite spells that transform them.
Okay.
So yeah. Just something to speculate on. The other next class, which has been confirmed, is the what they're going to be have is the necromancer, and they're going to be able to equip a great sword. It hasn't. We don't know what their specialization will be called. The only specialization which we know is going to be the druid. The necromancer is still unknown what specialization will be called, but it will be able to wield a great sword. How do you think that's going to turn out?
I think it gives more to a class that already does a lot. Like, I don't know, I don't play a necromancer, but I do know that everyone who's played one has gone on about like how insane their condition damage is early on, and I don't know if a greatsword is just going to mean less like dots and more like full-on firepower that they would otherwise not have. But in general, I think it's going to make them more of a like aggressive class than they already are, which is saying something. How about you?
I agree with that because at the moment the two ways of playing the necromancer are going for a straight up condition damage build, which is like, you know, kill everything in AoE, or a straight up power damage build, which is, you know, just straight up single target damage. And I feel because the necromancer can already be a fairly tanky class for what is a scholar, a lightly armored class, a greatsword could be really strong, like maybe even overpowered. I don't know, because they're so tanky and they can do so much damage with a power build that equipping a greatsword onto them and just, you know, making them just melee fighters that walk up to you and smack you in the face, it could be really scary. I'm really looking forward to how they're going to do this. Because I feel that necromancers are really underplayed and underrated, and they're super strong. Like,
it's because people think of them as like the noob class to this day, which, you know, it isn't entirely true, but it's enough to put people off playing them, I think.
I feel like people just don't understand how strong the necromancer really is. Like, Guardian is arguably the best class in Guild Wars 2, and I'm gonna say it, and I'm pretty sure a lot of people agree with me, is that Guardian is pretty OP. Like, they need to get nerfed. They're just way too good at everything. They're just like hands down what's the word I'm looking for? The prime class of Guild Wars 2, essentially.
Yeah.
And put one up against a necromancer, and you're gonna last about 2 seconds. And that's what people underestimate about the necromancer. They are a pure counter to Guardian. Like, if you want to win at World vs. World, you pick a Guardian. If you want to beat someone at World vs. World, you get a necromancer. And people just don't do that. When you're playing World vs. World and you come across a necromancer who knows what they're doing, you're all gonna die. It's so strong, especially if you're all Guardians buffing everyone.
I think we should point out exactly why this is the case. And I don't know if it's even down to knowing what you're doing. It's because Necromancer has an ability that turns buffs, boons into conditions. Yeah,
exactly.
And
I forget the name of the spell.
And because Guardians are very buff heavy, it's crazy good.
They purely rely on their buffs, and they buff their allies as well in an AoE. So, like, one Necromancer has this potential to just destroy a Zerg.
Yeah.
I mean, I've seen it. I've seen a Necromancer, like, scare off a Zerg. Like, when we were defending in the bottom right of Eternal Battlegrounds. When we were defending our base there, we just had one Necromancer just putting down some stuff and holding off this Zerg until we could get more reinforcements. I mean, of course, it wasn't enough to just, like, you know, make the whole Zerg leave, but it did work.
Yeah.
Like, you know, and that's saying something about a class that no one plays.
Yeah, for sure. It might be even scarier, the Greatsword, because the Mesmer Greatsword is completely ridiculous in World of Worlds, I found. Like, you basically end up like, it has massive range, so you outrange a lot of other people, and they don't expect you to do that because obviously they think they're safe sitting on the top of the towers just shooting arrow carts down at you, and then suddenly there's your Greatsword duelist is like on the battlements with them, like plowing them down, dealing quite a bit of damage and crippling them as well, which in terms of like World v World impact, it's very much shock and awe, which is what you want. So I think if the Necromancer Greatsword is also a ranged ability from it, then I'm thinking it'd be a really, really powerful class.
Yeah.
It could be terrifying. It could be completely OP, we'll see.
What do you reckon they're gonna call it? Reaper? Do you reckon that's what the specialization
That would be pretty awesome, yeah.
That would be so badass. I reckon it's gonna be Reaper.
I can't think of anything better than that, so
yeah. So Mesmer now. Here's your class, Tom. They will be able to equip a shield. That's been confirmed. And a lot of people have been saying this, and I'm pretty sure that their specialization is gonna be called Chronomancer. Like, how cool is that? Are you excited, cool. Tom? Are you excited to be a Mesmer? Because soon time will be your plaything.
See, this whole time thing is great, but Unless you've got like the equivalent of Chronosphere, no. Can you imagine that?
The
Anyway.
equivalent of a Chronosphere. For those who don't know, Chronosphere is a spell in Guild Wars. No, sorry, not in Guild Wars. In Dota 2, at a carry hero called Faceless Void uses, and basically it's this huge AOE that freezes anyone, including allies, completely still, except for Faceless Void inside that sphere. So he can just kill everyone that's inside, other than allies, obviously. Basically, that's what Chronosphere does. But I think that would be a bit OP in a game
I
like
think
Guild
it would.
Wars.
In all seriousness, I think it would.
That would be ridiculous.
My only like
Can you imagine just freezing an entire Zerg for like 6 seconds?
It wouldn't be, it's not that big of an AoE though. Like it wouldn't be.
That would be bullshit, man.
If it was the Dota 2 size, it would be bullshit. But if it was just the size of your current 5th skill with the staff, whatever it's called, you lay down an AoE of like lightning and death. If it's that size, then it's fine. Especially if you have to be sure you're not getting allies in it as well. That'd be really cool.
I still think it'd be OP, because then no one would be able to stop you. You could just do that, and then freaking
and then what?
And then run away. Just invis.
You can already. You can already.
You're already so hard to kill, and you're already such a nuisance.
Exactly.
Like here's the thing about Mesmers in Wovis World. They're not particularly strong, but what makes them strong is their utility. They're so annoying. They're like flies. You just can't swat. You try and swat them, but then you're like, no, I didn't swat it. I missed because he went invis and went somewhere else, or it was his illusion that I swatted.
Yeah, you just killed an entire army. Jokes on you, as all illusions. That's the ultimate Mesmer trick, I guess. So yeah, it's fun for that reason. So, and plus you got mass invisibility, teleport, portal, all that good jazz. I don't know. I think it's cool, and especially if it is all about time and stuff. Like everyone loves that. But the fact that it's a shield specialization makes me kind of Like the one thing I enjoy doing is dealing a lot of damage, like a crap load of damage. So obviously a shield is not gonna be about damage, but it might be. Who knows?
Yeah, I mean you can use Scepter, right? So you can be Scepter Shield now. It'd be interesting to see how they synergize the Scepter spells with the new shield spells.
They're already both quite defensive, you would think. I mean, Scepter is kind of defensive. So. Okay. Like, so if you go Scepter Focus on a Mesmer, you can basically run away and tank forever. Well, not forever, but for a long time. But you can't deal any damage with it.
Yeah. Alright, let's move on to the next one. Engineer. Oh wait, first, what do you reckon? I reckon Chronomancer is what they're going to be called. What do you think?
I don't know what else it could possibly be. Maybe like, I don't know, Void Terror. Name it after the Hearthstone thing.
Void Terror.
Because either that or you summon things. So, yeah.
Alright, let's go Engineer now. So it's been confirmed that engineers will be able to equip a hammer. Interesting. A class that didn't have any martial weapons now gets one. This was a complaint for the biggest time. A lot of people were like disappointed that the engineer just didn't have any martial weapons.
Yeah, because it's boring. It's as simple as that.
I wouldn't say engineers boring.
No,
I mean, they have so much variety because of all their kits and their equipment.
Kits, but if you play
you're gonna get so much hate. People are gonna like dislike the crap out of this if you say engineers boring, because they're not.
No. Okay. The idea that you can't equip swords or daggers even is boring to a lot of people, right? Like, it doesn't matter if you go Pyro Tank Guild, because Pyro Tank Guild is great, and you get to bring out your flamethrower and suddenly everyone's like running away from you. But most of the time you'll have a rifle out. And you'll be laying down like turrets and stuff, and you'll be like, okay, whatever.
I suppose. I don't know enough about Engineer to comment on it, but from what I played of Engineer, I found it really fun. It was my second most enjoyed class after Elementalist. I mean, I think Guardian is definitely my second most enjoyed class, actually, but I think Engineer would be if I played it more.
Yeah, like, I'm not saying it's boring as a class. I'm saying the idea you can only equip guns is kind of boring.
Okay, I'll agree with that. I mean, now the fact that we have a hammer is pretty cool. I saw like he was like slamming his hammer down. There was like fire and like all this really cool stuff were going on all over the place. And there was also some mobile turrets as well. They're like turrets following him around in the trailer.
Pretty awesome.
That's pretty sick.
Yeah,
So,
it's great, and I don't know. It sort of takes away your one limitation as an engineer to your turrets, which is you have to fight them near your turrets, otherwise they're not doing anything, and it's a waste of skill points.
yeah, so with the new traits and skills coming out for them, it looks like obviously some of them are going to be like these drones that follow you around in a hammer, which is like looks like it just destroys everything. I reckon it's probably going to be called something like an explosive expert from the look of it, or demolitionist or something like that.
Demolitions? Yeah, that'd be cool. Especially if you got a hammer. Oh wait, so basically it's Red Faction Gorilla.
It looks like it.
Yeah,
God,
that's not bad at all. That's good. Like, and because the engineer was already like tanky for a class like it, and as I say, like Pyro Tank was a very viable build until very recently, and it was pretty awesome to play. You just pull out a flamethrower. You also have a grenade kit as well. It's just you go ballistic on it, and it seems to be an extension of that.
All right, next one. This one I really want to talk about is Elementalist. Ooh.
Of course.
Yes. All right. There isn't any more stuff that's been confirmed about what the other classes can equip, but I'm gonna be hoping that the Elementalist can equip a sword, because that would be badass. Freaking battle mage specialization, please. All the one. ArenaNet, I will love you forever. I will buy so many gems from your store if you give me this.
Yeah,
like, all the gems will be mine.
Well, I don't want to claim to be
what's happened to our gem store? Suddenly we are really rich. It looks like one person is buying everything. It's gonna be like the ArenaNet guy who's like sitting back in the economics department. Suddenly their bank account just skyrockets. It appears to be coming from a man from Australia.
Yeah, who's just defaulted on his 5th credit card, and the feds are now on their way. Yeah, I don't know. My Elementalist is level 5, so I'm not going to say that I'm some expert, but it is probably the most interesting class in terms of like how much you can do when you're fighting someone. Like, just
as an Elementalist player with over 900 hours in the class, I would just like to say I'm quite well versed in the arcane arts.
Do you disagree with me then that it's very much I won't say spammy class, because that would imply you don't know what you're doing when you spam, but it's very much I don't know, macro heavy class. You just throw them out. You throw them out.
It is, and that's why it's the best class in the game, because there's so much to do. You have so many spells. It's not like 4 spells that you rotate. It's like 20,000 spells that you rotate. And then there's like all the weapons have like 25 spells each, and then you have all your utility spells, which are so situational, and it's really cool. And not only that, your utility spells, you can just summon more weapons. You summon more weapons with more spells. Why would you not want to play this class? You're retarded if you don't think this is the best class in the game. It's just too good.
Anyway.
I'm getting excited here now, because I really want a battle mage.
Yeah, you're pretty one-eyed about it.
That's alright. God. I mean, it has to be battle mage. I mean, think about it. We already have Fiery Greatsword as an elite spell, so we can get a Greatsword. We already have Staff, obviously. We already have Scepter Focus. We already have 2 daggers that we can equip. We can summon a Frostbow. We can summon a Lightning Hammer. We can freaking summon an Earthen Shield. Like, the only thing that's missing is sword. Like, just give me the sword. Just give it. Let me be a battle mage, please.
Wouldn't it be upsetting if it's
the one thing I've always wanted to do as Elementalist is just be tanky and walk up to people and smack them in the face. I've done everything I can to do that. Freaking, I have an entire set of healer's armor with freaking like full cleric's runes and a Duena's bullshit in it, and freaking all the healing and like freaking he can heal like a boss. Or I can just go like my full berserker with like scholar runes and just kill everything in one hit, which is pretty fun, but it sucks when you also die in one hit. I don't like dying in one hit.
Yeah.
If I could just become one with the battle mage, if I could be tanky and semi DPS, that'll be everything I ever wanted.
It's gonna be a real shame when they announce it's like a bow.
No, that's what John said. He'll be like, "Well, I reckon it's gonna be a longbow, honestly. Because like I feel if they give it a sword, then they're just gonna be giving the class too much." And shut up, John. No one likes you, party pooper. I don't like you or your brother.
You're so upset by it is you think he may be correct. Deep down, you suspect that ANET have plans similar to that.
If they give me a longbow, I will go to ANET. I will go to them. I will show them my Guild Wars 1 account and how dedicated I have been to this bloody game. They will give me what I want.
No, they'll say, "Oh, that's cute," but there's this other guy who's got 10,000 hours.
Yo, he can kill himself.
And he's got a better title than you have.
Shut up. Title of fat.
It's a crazy game, actually, Guild Wars. Like the dedication that people showed towards back in the day. I know someone who, like, no joke, only just managed to finish primary school whole things, because he was playing too much Guild Wars.
I'm sorry, what? Someone just finished primary school?
No, barely managed to finish primary school.
Oh, right.
Like, because that's how long ago it came out.
Wow.
Yeah, that's right.
Anyway, I am exhausted after going on that. So let's move on to the next class. Like, we're not even going to speculate other things because it has to be battle mage.
Sure.
So Guardian, we don't know what they're going to be able to equip, but what we do know is they have sword and shield, they have greatsword, they have hammer, and they have staff.
Yeah. So it's gonna be daggers.
Yes, it could be, but it could also be a bow. It could be a bow. I think that would be cool. I feel that at the moment they only have one ranged weapon, and that is the staff, and that's a very supporty thing. They don't really have a ranged DPS option, and I feel a bow would give them that. I honestly think bow is how it's going to go for them. And, maybe they could be called Crusaders or something. I don't know what you'd call them.
Crusader. That'd be interesting. Crusader to me is, I just can't get off the D3 class Crusader, so it's going to be more melee. But range would be called, I don't know. Imagine if it was pistols and they were called like peacekeepers.
Oh yeah, they could be called. Yeah, that's cool. It could be pistols, or it could be like a rifle. That'd be sick. Actually, I'd be really. I actually think maybe they could also give the elementalist a rifle. That could be cool, or like guns, but still battle mage. Don't get any ideas or internet. Just because I said it could be cool doesn't mean that's what you should do.
More of a ranged DPS class than you already are.
Lord. Anyway.
I don't know about making Guardian a proper ranged DPS class because they're pretty tanky as well, so it might be a bit OP. We'll see.
What are we missing? Warrior?
Yeah, Warrior.
Warriors can pretty much use every single martial weapon at the moment.
What else is there?
The things that the warrior can't use are the dual daggers, and they can't use a staff or like a scepter. I feel like they won't give the warrior any sort of like magic abilities because it just doesn't feel right. I feel that they're gonna go with the daggers.
Well, unless they make the class make sense, like the specialization name and such, and the lore behind it to make sense with a magic thing. Like battle mage.
Lord. Please
I just
no.
think it's
I
one or the other, right? Like if you're gonna make your magic class more tanky to make it a battle mage, then you can make your tank class more magicy.
I suppose, but I feel like daggers would be pretty cool in a warrior, and I want them to go with that.
Yeah, sure. What else do they not have?
There's also thief.
Thief.
Thief, you got your bow, you got your pistols, and you got your daggers. I feel like they could be given like a rifle and become like a more like a longer range. They could be called assassins or
Snipers.
something, or snipers. Yeah,
That'd be
like
cool,
that's what I
actually.
feel it's gonna be. I honestly feel that's what it will be for thief. Nothing else really seems correct. I mean, they could be pretty creative and go with some kind of magical kind of thing, like a
Yeah, they
dark
haven't done anything
shadow
like
arts
that.
thief that uses magic. That'd
And
be
they
very
call it
unique.
that would be, except then they call it shade, and then you can't do any damage because you have a hard time getting behind people.
Uh, I feel like we should go through this bit a bit quicker now. We've been
Sure.
in specializations for ages, but I think
We've
that's all of them
literally talked
anyway.
about Guild Wars 2 for an hour. I'm not kidding.
Yeah, holy shit. Well, it's fine though. This is like this will be known as the Guild Wars 2 Stay a While and Listen episode. It's a special.
Guild Wars 2 special, yeah. One of many, I'm sure, considering this is just off the back of an announcement at PAX Sale.
Hmm. Alright, so I'm gonna try to go through this now a bit quickly. So specializations will be swappable out of combat. Specializations are unlocked at level 80, and each profession, including the Revenant, will have one new specialization in Heart of Thorns. Though the system easily allows adding new ones in the future. So basically, they're saying is there's going to be more specializations. So even if I don't get Battle Mage this time, maybe next time.
Maybe next time.
But that's cool. I like that they're doing that. And we didn't actually discuss what the Revenant specializations will be, but I feel like that's not a thing we can do, considering we don't even know anything about the Revenant.
Yeah, plus you said
Um,
yourself, like, it seems like Ritualist might be it. I mean, that's as good a speculation as any, considering the lack of information right now.
Alright, so moving away from specializations, PvP, the new Stronghold mode, described as an evolution of guild versus guild. I'm really looking forward to this because it's kind of putting the guild back in Guild Wars. Because
Yeah.
back in Guild Wars 1, GVG was really fun. It was a pretty big thing, and the guild that I had, like my guild, which I owned, I was the leader of, we, like, guild versus guild was like the main thing I wanted us to do, because I think that was like it was so much fun and it added such a good competitive edge. Like, you'd look at the leaderboard and you'd see your guild there and you're like, hell yeah, all right, to move up now we need to challenge this guild and we can go up the ladder. So it kind of gives, like, how World vs World, you kind of fight for your server, but you don't
Yeah.
really feel that much of an attachment to your server. But your guild is a bit more personal because you
Yeah.
know that it's like a smaller community and you know it well, and you do a lot of things together as a guild. And adding GVG is such a good idea. And I don't know why it wasn't in the game in the beginning. I was disappointed it wasn't.
Well, they call it Guild Wars 2, and yeah, it's kind of silly. You could even tell how much people cared more about the guilds than about the server that they're playing on, because often it would be like whichever main guild in that server was running whichever Zerg was like the talk of the town. And you'd follow
Yeah.
their commander, and you'd follow anyone with their guild tag and be like, okay, well, I'm not really part of this guild, but for today I might as well be, because we're playing on the same server on the same side, and I'm following their commander and doing whatever they say.
Yeah. Other thing is, so teams fight for control of supply to hire troops who join the player in an assault an enemy stronghold where you break down defenses and kill the guild lord to win. So essentially these are the equivalent of creeps, and this mode has been inspired by MOBA games. And that is such a big deal for me, being a Dota fan. Like,
Yeah.
that is going to be awesome to basically have like Guild Wars, but with like you have like your creeps running around and like you can farm them and get stronger to get supplies.
But you're not getting. It's like reverse Dota though, as far as I can tell. You're not farming them to get stronger. You're farming to make your creeps stronger, and the longer the game goes on, the more stronger the creeps will be. Which is like Dota, but like to the extent that like one person won't be able to fight a creep wave at all. I reckon.
Yeah. So players can also meet heroes who can be won over to their side to join the assault and help destroy the guild lord. That's pretty cool. I'm curious to see what these kind of heroes will be. Will they be heroes from past time? Like, will Guild Wars 1 heroes be like resurrected or something
I
for
should hope
this
so.
thing as ghosts? That would be
Not
sick.
not like what they currently have in World v World, which is like win over the dredge so that they help you out.
Yeah.
Win over the Scrit. Oh man, I love it.
Win over the Scrit. I don't even think you can do that. Can you?
Yeah, you know you go in the caves and you
Oh
have to
yes,
like
I remember.
kill a certain amount of stuff and then they get to your side. Yeah, it's exactly that.
Win over the Scrit.
It's like wonderful.
Next will be winning over Quaggins. Jesus.
I'm not surprised. Yeah, I'm surprised it's not already in there.
So yeah, there will be a registered guild leaderboard for this. Recently, John and Ruben have been telling me, like, I should try and, like, make a guild again and start it up, seeing as I'm not playing Dota as much anymore. Focus a lot more on Guild Wars 2, and I think that's what I might do with the new expansion coming out. I might try and start up my own guild. It's been a while since I've done that. Haven't done that since Guild Wars 1.
Why not? Like, is it like WoW where you have to pay a lot of gold? So
no, you don't. It's actually completely free to make a guild.
Then yeah, it's literally just down to how many people you think will join.
Making a guild in Guild Wars 1 was expensive as heck, man. Like, no one would even, like, bat an eye at your guild unless you had a guild hall, and guild halls were expensive. They're like 20 platinum. 20 platinum just for a commodity. Like, Jesus.
That's
another thing. They're finally adding guild halls. I don't know why this wasn't in the game in the first place.
Probably because no one had 20 platinum, and never will.
So basically, guild halls can claim and grow. Guilds can claim and grow a guild hall in the heart of Maguma. Provides a home base where players can gather, organize for events and guild missions, and build and progress both the guild and the guild hall. Small guilds will be treated respectfully. I don't know what that means.
I think it means that you won't have your guild hall just obliterated by an admin because some bigger guild is like, oh, that's a nice plot of land. Can we have it?
That's pretty funny, actually. That could happen.
Because
that'd be hilarious.
I'm pretty sure people would be concerned about that.
Alright, let's move on to the last bit of topic, what you've probably been looking forward to the most, World vs. World. There will be a new Borderlands. It'll be a new map where each keep has its own distinct theme. Holding objectives around each keep gives abilities to the world that holds it. The Earth Keep, when controlling the shrines around it, the keep raises earthen defenses where enemy armies assault. The Fire Keep, where controlling the Fire Keep, magma pools become available to allow allied players to traverse the map more easily. Revisions to World vs. World will be made so that holding objectives becomes a bigger part of victory in all maps. So they're nerfing the Karma Train. It's no longer going to be a huge circle jerk. So holding objectives is good.
I mean, it's good. Like, as much as I loved being on a Karma Train, I loved deliberately not defending things just so we could retake them on the understanding that the other side doesn't defend them. It's great. It's like it's a very cartel-esque business transaction. That's obviously not a game. That's just, yeah, it's a circle jerk. It's a bit silly.
There will be a new rotation of maps, and it has been described by the developers as being inspired by RTS games. So that's interesting.
Yeah, I think by that they mean like the different terrain in StarCraft 2, which is a very big deal. Like the map rotation, learning the maps is huge. And like, yeah, you had terrain issues in Guild Wars before. Obviously, especially in Edge of the Mists, there were entire bridges that you just kill yourself by not crossing properly.
Yeah.
But anything else is like, it's easy. Just run across a field a bunch with your friends.
So one last thing to note about this, this will be relevant to some people, not relevant to me or Tom. Although there's currently no release date, a playable version will be available at PAX East from March 6th to March 8th, 2015. So if you want to go to that and check it out, you most certainly should.
Yeah.
And then you can tell me about it.
Yeah, exactly. And we can speculate. Right.
So yeah, that's everything about Heart of Thorns that we know so far. And that's not all of it, which is, the awesome part. There's still more, but we don't
Yeah.
know it.
Also, level up a Sylvari, I believe, was the advice.
Ah, yes. Level up Sylvari. Huge changes for Sylvari are coming. Good thing my main is a Sylvari. My Elementalist. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
This is gonna be good. Your Elementalist, on the other hand, Tom, level 5.
Sorry.
Better start working on that.
Like, you can get to level 80 in like a day these days. So
No, you can't. Don't have Woe World anymore.
yeah, but with all the bonuses and stuff.
Nah,
You
it's so hard to level. Dude, I've been trying to level my Thief constantly for like the past week, and I've only gone up like 15 levels.
see
I mean,
more.
I could be more
Hashtag
dedicated towards it, but
exactly.
there's
Hard work and
WoW.
dedication. There's always WoW. And WoW is constantly reminding you that you're paying it money every month, and if you're not playing it, you're losing value. Whereas
Yeah.
Guild Wars, it sort of sits there being like, it's okay, you can come back anytime.
Hmm.
So yeah, that's a Tierney would be developers of MMOs out there. Subscription-based gaming, you can't compete with WoW, but the business model still is stands head and shoulders above others in terms of profitability.
Indeed, it does.
Oh yeah,
So,
so ESO going free to play.
oh yeah, didn't we talk about that last time? We didn't we?
I don't think we did. I can't remember honestly.
ESO going free to play. Color me shocked. Oh, I didn't see that one coming. What about you, Tom?
I
A
think
surprise, am I
I
right?
think my favorite part was the article I read started out by saying, "I hate to say I told you so. Isn't a very nice thing to say to Bethesda or ZeniMax."
Yeah. I saw it coming. I'm glad it's happening. I'm one of the few people who really enjoyed the game, and I think making it free to play is going to be a huge bonus to it. And I really hope that more people play it because it's a really good game, but it's a game that should be free. It's not a game that I would pay $15 a month for because it doesn't really feel like an MMO. I played it more like a single player than an
Yeah,
MMO, and I don't want to be paying $15 a month for what is a single player game.
but
But yeah, I'll definitely play it when it's out. I played it so much for the first 2 months of its release until it just hit me that, I don't know if I want to be paying $15 a month for this. It's great and I enjoy it. I was sad to part ways with it, but you know, in the end, I don't have infinite money.
yeah, yeah, and it's not just about whether you can afford something; it's about value. And if you don't feel the values, then it's not worth paying for something, even if you don't care about the cost itself.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, for me, I think I don't know, unless the box copy, because it's not entirely free now. It's basically pay once to play forever. If it's absurd, like over $120, because I know some games have done this before, then no. But otherwise, sure, I'll buy it.
Yeah. Is there anything else you want to talk about?
Nothing in particular that would fit with the theme of MMOs. I think we've talked about MMOs to death, and
Yeah.
yeah,
It's become like an MMO podcast.
pretty much. But that's the great thing about MMOs. There's lots to talk about.
Yeah. Whew. Damn, I spoke a lot. I really need a glass of water. Usually I have a glass of water here on the side while we're doing the podcast, but I forgot to get one this time.
And that is
Throat
why
is
you
all dry.
prepare, everyone.
Mm. So, currently, there's been some controversy going on with Ubisoft. They've been taking away people's games because of what is called the grey market, G2A. You've
and
been very naughty boys, G2A. Where have you been acquiring your games? Yes.
and the thing is about this is that everyone suspected, but they weren't willing to do anything about it because the deals were just too sweet, as it were.
Hmm.
And I guess the approach of a lot of people is when they see a sinking ship, they dive upon it to try and plunder its treasure before it finally goes down, and they hope they can jump off with it. And obviously, some people didn't manage and have gone down with the ship, as it were. I.e., lost their games that they probably paid at least $20 for, probably 40.
Mm.
The other people who people think are going to get burnt, which I'm not entirely sure they will actually get burnt for this because the fans will stay loyal to them, but there are lots of Twitch streamers, particularly, not just YouTubers, but mostly Twitch streamers who were offered brand deals with G2A. So they basically endorse them, say that they're proudly sponsored by them, so on and so forth. And then as a result, they get a cut of all the sales that they make.
Mm.
Which is, I mean, it's not as much of a risk as people seem to think it would be. But at the same time, I think if your reputation goes on the line as someone who would vouch for a company who sells stolen goods, then I'm sure it'll turn a lot of people away from your channel.
Yeah. The grey market is a shady business, as the name would suggest.
Yeah, I mean, theoretically, I'm all behind it. Like the pure grey market, i.e., buying a game in one region and then reselling it into another region, because your region is quite less well off than the Western world, particularly Russia. And as a result, you basically win through economies of scale, which has been a staple of trading for years and years. Like, I honestly don't see a problem with that. It's just it can allow for other shady practices to go on because it's being painted by the same brush as selling stolen goods. The other problem with it is that if it goes awry, as it seems to have done, is it's just going to encourage people to get into copy protection, RDM, and region locking. And region locking is obviously the bane of a lot of gamers' existence, with good reason. The fact that Nintendo have stuck to it for so long has annoyed people to no end. So I don't want this to happen for other games just because people are abusing this too much.
Indeed.
It is in fact possible to have too much of a good thing. I think the other way of looking at it is that these sites are also just reselling sites. They're purely a a third party allowing people to sell to others. It's just, well, if you operate a store like eBay, and these, not GTA, but the other one, which I forget the name of, is basically like the eBay for purely digital games. And if eBay were found to be selling stolen goods on a frequent basis, and there's plenty of speculation about that happening, people wouldn't trust it at all. If they thought that the police could show up and seize their eBay purchases as evidence, they just wouldn't operate. They just wouldn't use the thing, and eBay wouldn't be able to operate in such a manner as they currently do. So it is on the storefront as much as it is on sellers and buyers as well. So yes, it's up to you. That's why they call buyer beware. It still applies to digital games, everyone, not just things that you have to like go and collect in person. There's a lot less risk, but it's still your money on the line. So if you think something might be stolen, don't pay money for it. And the final thing to mention, by the way, is for any service that profits from stolen goods, you always have to think about where it was stolen from. Obviously, stolen from Ubisoft, it's very hard to make a case for those poor guys at Ubisoft having their game stolen. However, shall they cope?
Yeah.
But you have to think about the backlash of them, not just region locking, but other RDM and stuff. Like, so you have to instead of proper region locking, you have to register your game before it'll even play, and then it detects that you've registered in the wrong region, and as a result, you can access the software, but you can't log in, and thus none of your progress is saved. Imagine how shitty that would be. So don't encourage this sort of activity. It's just like the gold buying on WoW all over again. Like, think about where that gold came from. It came from other people's accounts, and it was stolen from them, and they're going to be pretty upset about this. So you're basically enabling people who would steal it in the first place by buying said gold.
Yeah, I agree.
Like, turn into a bit of a PSA.
Pretty much. But yeah. I mean, I've done it as well. You know, the whole buying from a grey market thing. It's a I haven't had problems with it. I haven't bought a Ubisoft game, thank God, so that's not going to get taken away from me. Um, but yeah, I do agree. Like, I really want to know. I want them to go into more detail about this. Where were those games acquired from? Yeah, there's a lot of questions that need to be answered.
Yeah, all that they did was just confirm that the games have been stolen, not, in what capacity were they stolen, kind of thing. It's fair enough that they don't want to mention it because obviously then you're kind of advertising to the people looking to steal the games in the first place, the exploits required to get them.
Yeah.
So, you don't want that kind of thing. But it could be as simple, like something as basic as someone broke into a store, a local gaming store, stole some keys, and then put them up on a friend's website. Maybe not just G2A, but maybe it was like a 6 degrees of separation thing. Like a friend's cousin's brother sold them to this guy, and this guy knew someone who was involved with this website, and that's how they acquired the keys. It's very up in the air, very shady, very reasonable denial of knowledge and denial of capacity to deal with them.
Mm.
So obviously they're not going to talk about that too much. Needless to say, though, it would kind of promote crime, so I can see why they don't want to talk about it too much, as curious as I am myself.
Yeah.
See, the one time I ever did buy a grey market game was Borderlands 2 from a Russian website, just called like CD Keys Warehouse or whatever, and they seemed enough.
That's the same place where I got it from.
Yeah,
the exact same game. I remember that.
They seem like a legitimate enough website purely because, like, what they do is they send you an image of the CD key, and it seems to be of a legitimate game, not just like a random pirated thing. So, I don't know.
Here's hoping that they weren't stolen games.
Pretty much. I don't know. I've been inclined to say that they're not, simply because that website still exists and is used by plenty of people to this day.
Yeah. Anyway, I think that just about wraps up this episode of Stay a While and Listen. Hopefully you stayed a while and listened.
Listen to the important parts. See, Guild Wars 2 is nice and all, but we have a message about crime, kids.
Yeah.
Scruff. We need like digital Scruff McGruff, the cyber crime dog.
Oh lord, now I'm gonna be looking up a picture of that all night. Screw you, Tom.
What I do.
Anyway, we don't really have an outro, do we?
We do not have an outro to this day.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I said that last episode as well.
And I would say that could be our defining trait, but there are millions of podcasts out there just as amateurly produced as this one, which without outros.
I suppose. But
So,
we accept the fact that we don't have an outro, and we what's the word I'm looking for? We revel in that fact. That doesn't make much sense, does it? Yeah, I don't know. It makes kind of sense.
It's also a message to any potential sponsors who would be listening. If you want to sponsor us, we will definitely be able to fund a professionally produced outro. You won't have to come begging to Kickstarter.
Yeah, and we'd love to make ads just like the Co-optional Podcast does. That'd be so much fun. Sponsor us, please.
Yeah, see, adverts are like entertainment value in their own right now, so it's very much willing of not just the would-be sponsors, but the audience themselves would demand adverts. It's a win-win situation, really.
Why wouldn't you do it? Come on, we waiting here.
Stay well and listen podcast. Why wouldn't you do it? What a tagline.
Alright. I think that's it. It's 1 AM here and we're both tired, so
yep.
We'll see you guys next episode, which will be next week.
Yeah, next week. Sure.
Yes. Shut up, Tom.